Hey, Billy, how are you? You ready for tonight's read? Where that came from? Oh. Hey, Ori. You can keep your 40 degrees up there. It's probably going to get that cold here. We got, let's see, it's 58 when I left work at 5 o'clock. It's 57 now. And so it's sticking down the mid 50s tonight, but then rain all day tomorrow. And then Friday, they're actually calling for snow. I'm hurting. I ain't gonna lie about it. I'm hurting. I'm over this weather. I'm ready to move to the Guapolis. Hey, Neener Beaner. How are you, sister? Yeah, I mean, it's not supposed to be a lot of snow. I mean, we're not talking about major accumulation or anything like that, but it's still liable to shut down parts of the area because, of course, nobody down here knows how to drive in the snow. We don't have what you guys call snow tires. Hey, Vincy Lou Who. So, but if we blink, it's all gone. So we just wait it out. It's easier that way. No excuse not to work. Unless, of course, you're working from home. I have to go back in the office tomorrow. Hey, Jody. Missed you coming in there, sister. Jody, you guys going to be getting some snow Friday. Especially the mountains. You should get Tim to take you up to Fort Mountain tomorrow or Friday. Take some snow pictures. You don't have to show them to me. Just go take you some pictures. Or, was it Brass Top? Is Beth supposed to be here? I don't have snow yet, but we're supposed to be getting snow Friday, Jody. So get ready. I want it. It can all go to you. You and Tim can have your snow and enjoy it. It can be my gift to you. I'm hurting. Hey, Princess Brat. I love you. No, I know why I'm yawning tonight. I'm hurting. We got rain coming in tomorrow. And it's killing me already. I'm so over it. Wished I could blame man on rain, on bad weather. But I know we need the rain. We need all this stuff. You would ever snow again. Well, baby girl, you just keep wanting that snow because I don't want it. The mountains are supposed to get an inch or two Friday, so make him take you up into the mountains. It's not like you can't sneeze and be on one. All right, y'all ready to get started? I was trying to go Beth. Trying to get here, but I guess she ain't gonna make it. Alrighty. Can y'all hear the music okay? I really wasn't sure how to pick out music for this one. Okay, good deal. Alrighty. All right. This book is called Death Rites by Beth HIldenbrand. Okay. I got Billy on here. I was going to say, I need some authors on here, but Billy's on here. That'll be good. Because this is about authors. Good old Canada Dry. Okay. Prologue. She smelled the smoke first. It carried across the still air like a dense fog. She knew when she reached the source of the smoke, she would find her worst nightmare. I need to plug my phone up. She ran a mad dash through the dark as if the devil himself was chasing her. And in a way, he was. The man who she chose to assist her in this mad endeavor occasionally glanced back to be sure she was keeping up. She followed him blindly, too frightened to call out, too out of breath to try. Hey, Beth. Matthew McConaughey. Somebody dreaming, aren't they? She followed him blindly, too frightened to call out, too out of breath to try. If only she had called him sooner. She could feel the perspiration run down her back and between her breasts, whether from physical exertion or fear, she didn't know. As her short legs pumped across the muddy leaves, she sent silent prayers heavenward. Her heart refused to grasp what her head was urging her to do. She was heading full steam up toward hell, or at least her version of it. She had called for his help, knowing he would question her sanity, but also knowing he was her only hope. It had taken too long to explain, even longer to convince him she hadn't lost her mind. Hell, when she stumbled upon the grisly secret, she couldn't believe it herself. The time it took for her to explain and him to leave work and get to her seemed like hours. She had been terrified they wouldn't make it in time. Now here she was, thrashing through the dark woods with a man who she had come to despise, heading into a situation that could very well get both of them killed. Up ahead, she saw him stop and conceal himself in the shadows of a group of trees. He waved to her to get behind him. Catching her breath, she stood behind him, peeking around his shoulder. She saw what he was focused on. Directly in front of them, now visible, was a clearing. A huge fire burned at the head of a long, flat stone. It was obvious, even in the dim light, that the stone had been shaped to form an altar. The altar stood about 4 feet high with a pentagram chiseled into the side. It wasn't the blatantly satanic symbol that made her stomach turn in revulsion, but what lay on the altar. A small child, 5 years old. She knew the age because she knew the child. Today, June 21st, the summer solstice, was the little one's 5th birthday. 5 black candles, wicks flickering in the night air, had been placed around the small body. One above its head, one at each of its outstretched arms, and one at each of its spread legs. The poor baby lay bare, exposed to the humid evening air. She covered her mouth with both hands to stifle a scream as a cowled figure moved to stand at the little one's head. The man, he must be the high priest, lifted a silver goblet to his lips, drinking with relish. Reaching backward, he handed the goblet off to one of the other cloaked figures gathered behind him, then put his hands in a bowl, resting beside the candle at the child's head. When he raised his hands, she could see something black dripping from his fingertips. Blood, she thought. He began to chant while he painted symbols on the child's skin. His followers echoed his words in what she presumed to be Latin. She reached out and grabbed him by his sleeve. "We're too late." "No," he growled, pulling a .38 revolver from the waistband of his jeans. "I got one of those for Christmas." Eek. "We'll stop them. I promise you that." He reached down and pulled the gun's twin from a holster above his boot and handed it to her. "You expect me to kill someone?" she hissed. "To save that baby? You damn right I do." Looking him in the eyes, she didn't say a word, just nodded in agreement. The night exploded with gunfire and blood. Chapter 1. She could see only their contours silhouetted in the mirror. His face was only darkness. His eyes held all colors and yet none at all. They stood so close she could taste his breath. Closing her eyes, she savored his dark essence on her tongue. The faint light through the windows pressed against her eyelids, drowning her in a whispering pink haze. When his lips found hers, the sensation intensified. A heaviness weighed her down, wrapped her in the sensation of floating in warm water. She had never been kissed like this. She felt her entire body flush with desire, wanting, needing. As the kiss deepened, darkness descended. She was on the bed. He stood at the footboard looking down on her. The eyes that held her mesmerized now sent a jolt of raw fear through her. The terror was chilling. The dark hands of death left her body frozen. Unable to lift her arms, she grasped at the blankets, digging her nails into the plush fabric. He now knelt at the bottom of the bed. Long, straight black hair fell from a widow's peak, framing his face. Their eyes locked. What was visible of his face was now only a dark mask. She opened her mouth to scream, but found herself without a voice. He crawled closer and brought with him more of the freezing air. With each move he made, his eyes became more malevolent. I don't know why I said that. Again, she tried to call out, stopping him only until he discovered she could not make a sound. Now his face was centimeters from her own. His breath had gone from sensual to fetid. What is that word? Fetid? I don't even know. Freezing the air. It's putrid is what it is. Freezing the air in her nostrils. This time, at least, the scream tore from her throat, shattering whatever had held her paralyzed. When her flailing arms broke free, he vanished. Oh, really? Congrats. Oh, God. Getting old as hell, y'all. Don't do it. Just don't. Just stay whatever age you are now and don't get any older. Will shot up in bed, the blanket still clutched in her waving hands. As her breath hissed in and out, she saw puffs of white escape. Her body shook, teeth chattered, and she tried to slow her breathing. Damn, that had been a bad one. She reached out with a trembling hand and on the bedside lamp. Blinking, her mind still foggy from the nightmare, she saw her glass of water resting on the table beside the lamp had a thin film of ice on the top. True, she ran the air conditioner at frigid temps, but what the hell? That was a little too freaky. Reaching between her breasts, she pulled down, freeing the knife she wore around her neck from its sheath and began chipping at the frozen water. After chipping at it, she sipped the icy water, allowed it to soothe her raw throat. Then she did what she always did after one of her nightmares. She grabbed a tablet and a pen, writing down everything she could remember. It was late afternoon when Willow Alexander sat at her computer furiously typing. This latest nightmare was just what her book needed. Willow was an indie author. Her genre, horror. 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 I have a hard time with that word sometimes. I don't know. I have a hard time talking right now. Hurt too bad. The sultry blues voice of Dorothy blasted through Will's headphones as she set herself to her story. Her focus was complete. Nothing felt quite like being in the zone, the heavenly place where the words flowed like water from a pitcher. There was no high like it. She was close to 1,500 words and when a white blur of movement out of the corner of her eyes surprised her, followed by silence as her music was cut dead. Letting out a very girly squeal and jumping from her chair, Will shook in shock. She turned to see her son Reagan and his best friend Jace, short for Jasper. Is it Jas, short for Jasper, standing behind her laughing like a pair of loons. Will squinted her blue eyes at her son, who shared her strawberry blonde hair, and grinned while trying to pull back his laughter. Brats, she scolded. I've raised a couple of brats. Now go away so I can work. Come on, don't be a sissy, Reagan chastised, earning him a scowl. I knocked and called out, but you were lost in your jams. What do you want? Mom wants to take us out for dinner tonight, Jas answered. Jas, with his dark skin and big brown eyes, was the complete opposite of Reagan, but the two had been inseparable since kindergarten. Will and Julie, Jasper's mom, had resigned themselves to sharing children, each of the mothers treating the other child as their own. She said we've been eating you out of house and home all week, and you could use a break. This is why I adore your mom. Please tell Julie I owe her. I think she stopped keeping track years ago, Jas laughed. But I'll tell her. Give me kisses and get moving. Both boys pecked her cheek and headed for the door. When they hit the top of the stairs, they were stopped by a booming voice. Reagan popped his head back in the room. Aunt Lanie's here. I can hear that for myself, Will groaned. Her best friend and Reagan's honorary aunt was at the foot of the stairs raising a ruckus. This was nothing out of the ordinary. She could hear her friends shout for her to come upstairs. With a wistful look at her computer, Willow followed the boys. You've got to see this, Lanie kept repeating. Her bright green eyes twinkled with... Sorry, y'all. Her bright green eyes twinkled with excitement. At the moment, she reminded Will of a fluttering pixie, the blonde ponytail bobbing up and down as she wriggled with the anticipation of showing her friend what she discovered. See what? You have got to see it for yourself. Come outside. You are not going to believe this shit, Lanie continued, pulling on Willow's arm, practically dragging her out the front door. Intrigued, the boys trooped along behind the woman as Lanie led them around the house to the backyard. At first, Willow saw nothing that would warrant Lanie's determined fascination. It wasn't until she was a foot away from the object that Will froze in her tracks, shrinking back in revulsion. Holy shit! Jas gasped. Look at the size of it. I know, right? Lanie agreed. That's one big bastard. What the fuck? Willow gaped as she looked down at the biggest possum she had ever seen. Stay back, she ordered them all, noting the boys had taken sticks from the old oak tree the possum lay beneath. It's out in the middle of the day. It might have rabies. It's dead, Lanie argued. I threw a rock at it and it didn't move. Willow saw the little stone Lanie must have used. She doubted that the small stone had made an impression. The nasty beast must weigh a good 40 pounds. It probably felt nothing when the stone bounced off its hide. She had done some research for a book and knew the possum could lay in a state of catatonia for up to 4 hours, appearing completely dead. For God's sake, Lanie, you've heard of playing possum. It could still be alive. Ugh. Look at the size of its teeth. It wasn't just the teeth, Willow thought to herself. Its pink snout and wiry whiskers made her stomach roll. The hairless tail was at least 2 feet long, and the smell emanating from the creature stank of rotten garbage and wet, dirty dog. Okay, yeah, I gotta stop right there because it is skunk season in my neighborhood, and I have a bruise on my leg from where I went out this morning to feed the chickens before daylight, and I had to leave, and I smelled skunk. I come back in a hurry and ran my leg into a chair. There's one dead about half a mile up the road. I hate skunks. But yeah, I get the possum thing. Who doesn't know what a possum is? Let's find you some pictures. There's your possum. My brother despises them with a passion. They are pretty, but they make good pets too. So I don't know. I don't want one. Oh, I can imagine. Hey, bitch! What you doing, sister? Beth, you don't have to talk to her. Karen, it is. I mean, we all ignore her except for when I say, hey, bitch. So, The hairless tail was at least 2 feet long, and the smell emanating from the creature stank of rotten garbage and wet, dirty dog. She shivered in disgust. Lanie, as always, the one to rush headlong into the unknown, took the stick from Reagan's hand. Give me that. Hey, Reagan snapped, earning himself another scowl from his mother. Stop, rang out from a husky male voice behind them. Lanie froze in mid-poke. The four of them turned to see Will's boyfriend approaching. Mathis Church strode into the ring of bodies like an impatient father about to lay down the law with his unruly children. He swatted Lanie's hand back while removing the stick from her lax grasp. How old are you? He asked her. Hi, Church, she grinned, unrepentant. Look what we found. I see. He snapped. I also see Will as white as a sheet. Take her inside. Built like a bull and staring her down with hard gray eyes, even Lanie didn't have the temerity to argue. When she glanced at her friend, she saw he spoke the truth. The freckles across the bridge of her nose stood out stronger against her ultra pale skin. Come on, Will. He's right. You don't look good. As Lanie led her back inside, Will could hear Church bark at the boys. Will followed her into the kitchen where Lanie poured her a glass of sweet tea, then took a seat. Ooh, sweet tea, sister. Yes, yes, yes. Took one of the bar stools situated around an island counter. You okay? I've never known you to get this way over a damn dead critter. You're the queen of horror. Nothing scares you. Unable to shake it off, Will blurted, Harbinger of doom. Come again? Finding a dead possum is considered a harbinger of doom. It's a sign something bad is coming. Lord help me if that was the case. If anybody believes that Nina is innocent, please contact me after the live read and so that I can set you straight. I can give you stories upon stories upon stories of how innocent Miss Nina is. Okay, where did you come up with that? I was doing research on my first book, Love Song for a Demon, and I was looking up old folklore. I didn't use it in the book. It seemed too hokey. Right before Church walked up, I remembered. So you look like you saw a ghost because you read some asinine old folk story. You usually laugh your ass off over that kind of thing. I know, Will agreed. It's probably just because I'm tired. I had a hellish nightmare last night and couldn't get back to sleep. Lanie took in the dark smudges under her friend's eyes and probed deeper. And again, I am compelled to say you usually laugh this stuff off. Is anything else going on? Will's mind went back in time. The day was very much the same, hot, humid, muggy. Lee had been working on a motorcycle and hadn't come in for supper. She'd been angry that she had to go chasing after him. Reagan and Jas were sitting at the table waiting impatiently to be fed. As she stomped through the backyard, she had the smackdown ready in her mind. She was going to lay into him for being inconsiderate. She could hear the radio blasting as she rounded the side of the old carriage house. She could picture him sitting there on his wooden stool drinking a beer, lost in his own world. The double doors were open as she stormed inside. Then she saw him and her world came crashing down. It's the anniversary, Will confessed. Leaving Lanie to raise a questioning eyebrow, Will gave her a wide-eyed look, and understanding dawned on her friend's face. It's been 4 years since Reagan's father hung himself. Chapter 2. Inside the house, the woman heard the pop of a gunshot. Sounds like Church just shot the damn thing, Lanie surmised. I still say it was already dead. Great, Will groaned. The neighbors are going to love that, especially the creeper next door. It's against the law to fire a weapon in the borough. He's always looking for a reason to call the cops on me. Thank goodness the damn nosy man is at work right now. It didn't help that you drove through his perfectly kept lawn, Lanie reminded her. That's one thing I hate about living in town. We're supposed to share the driveway, but his damn trucks take up all of his space and half of mine. I keep asking him nicely, but he kept parking me in. Yeah, well, maybe you shouldn't have taken a picture of him when he roped off his yard to stop you from doing it again. Then, when he caught you taking the picture, you blew a kiss to him with your middle finger. If he wasn't such an asshole, I never would have done it. The hidden imp in me couldn't resist. The look on his face was too damn funny. Will chuckled softly at the memory. I don't know why you didn't send Church after him. He's a mercenary. He enjoys terrorizing people. Lanie, I wish you wouldn't say that kind of thing out loud. What if Reagan heard you? As far as Reagan knows, Church is in the National Guard. He has no idea that he's a contractor for the military. The last thing I want is him worrying about the new father figure in his life getting hurt or worse. I still say you're wrong about that. You should give the kid more credit. He's 17 and a lot more level headed than you think. I guess we'll just agree to disagree on that one, Will stated, ignoring her friend's exaggerated sigh. Church strode into the kitchen. Lanie wondered to herself how Reagan didn't realize Mathis was more than what he seemed. His dark hair was worn high and tight. His eyes were piercing. Hell, the man just exudes killer instinct. He went directly to Willow. Wrapping his arms around her, he placed a kiss on top of her strawberry blonde hair. Better? Yes. I sent the boys on their way. I didn't think Reagan needed to see anything being shot and buried today. Lanie went to the fridge and grabbed a beer. She set the cold bottle of Budweiser on the island top in front of Church. You look like you could use that. Use this. Thanks. Church tipped the bottle at Lanie and took a healthy swig before setting it back down. So, what do you ladies have planned for the evening? I'm on duty tonight, Lanie answered. Just stopped by on my way in to check up on my girl here. Sounds like a fun Friday night, Church teased her. Lanie, who worked at the nursing home, chuckled. Oh, yeah, Mr. Jeffrey's been sparking on the widow, Mrs. Bowes. Rumor has it he plans on sneaking down to her room with a bottle of Mad Dog, hoping to get lucky. That's so sweet. Aww. Will finished her thought with a screech as Church's beer hit the floor. What the fuck? He snapped. I didn't touch the thing. Church glared at Lanie. Don't look at me. I wasn't anywhere near it. I'll clean it up, Will offered, since no one seemed to be worried about the mess on the floor. Shamefaced, Lanie hurried for the mop. When the mess was cleaned, Lanie made her departure. I gotta get my ass to work. You kids have a fun night tonight. She walked to Will and gave her a squeeze. Call me if you need me. I'm good, thank you. Will managed a weak smile. Church didn't care for the defeated look on Will's face. It was unlike her. Fearless was the first thought that came to mind when he thought of Willow. She lost her mother at a young age, never knew her father. Then she survived an abusive marriage until the pastor hung himself. Still, she kept going. Hell, she thrived and managed to raise a damn good kid in the process. In his mind, she was a warrior. Grab a jacket. I'm taking you out, he informed her. What? You need to shake this off. Whatever it is that's bugging you, the kids are gone for the night. Let's go get shit-faced. A slow smile crept across her face. Sounds like a plan. I'll get my jacket. Hot damn. His eyebrows raised devilishly over sparkling green eyes as he rubbed his hands together, thinking of the fun they would be having when they got home. Hours later, comfortably numb, Will clung to Church as he bit her shoulder. Her fingers dug into his muscular arms. She initially trailed her nails down his. Is that intentional? Intentionally trailed her nails down his skin, urging him to bite harder. Instead, he grabbed her hair, pulling her head back. My girl wants to play rough, Church growled, pushing her back onto the bed, loving the taunting smile on her face. She reached out for him, but he stayed back, toying with her, tugging her belt open. He popped the fly on her jeans, then yanked them down her legs. With a growl, he pulled off her boots, finishing with stripping her from the waist down. He had himself standing nude in record time, while Will made quick work of losing her tank top and bra. Church fell on her, hot, hard, and hungry. He straddled her, fucking her face as he reached behind to squeeze her breast. Will moaned around his cock as it filled her mouth, tickling the back of her throat. She was lost in the taste of him, the texture of each and every ripple of his magnificent dick. Even the scent of him was enough to get her wet. When he reached further back to massage her clit, she released his balls. Shit. When he reached further back to massage her clit, she released his balls that she had been massaging and reached out to claw her way down his legs, leaving red welts on the inside of his pumping thighs. When she tasted a pearl of cum on her tongue, she knew what she was dying for was soon to come. Church pulled out of her mouth and started stroking himself. You want this inside you? Yes, she hissed, her eyes heavy with lust. Backing up, he pulled her legs up over his hips and thrust himself into her waiting warmth. She cried out in painful pleasure, wondering if she had ever felt this aroused before. A trail of light from the window illuminated half of his features. His eyes were intense, his jaw clenched. He looked like the deadly fighter he was. And why did that just make her even more aroused? Then it changed. The side of his face in the light was her church. The side of his face in the shadows was something else, something sexual. Lust pulsed from it in warm waves. She felt herself drowned in it. Her mind drifted, thinking, this is what I've been waiting for. The erotic ride had her flooding around him as he took her. An orgasm so blinding, Will thought she might lose herself forever in its grip. As she slipped from the euphoria, it changed again, no longer some mysterious lover. Now the white of his eyes were glowing. The hair that Church always kept high and tight hung to his shoulders. The mouth took on a sinister sneer. Soon the strange face took over completely. The rush of heat from sex turned cold. His cock pulsing in and out of her felt like an icicle penetrating her. She tried to buck him off. Moans of pleasure became gurgles of fear. Her head started to spin, showing her flashes. One moment it was Church, the next it was something else. The skin under her hands burned her fingers as if they had frostbite. At last he came, and it was like liquid ice shooting through her womb. When he collapsed on top of her, she was afraid to look at his face, terrified that when he lifted his head, it would not be Church at all anymore, but something else, something evil. I better move so you can breathe, he said, rolling off of her. He lay beside her, gently fondling her breast. Calling herself a coward, Will turned to him. There, before her eyes, was the familiar face she loved. It had to have been the booze and her overactive imagination. That and the play of light and shadow had her conjuring up horrors. With a huge yawn, Will snuggled into him. It had been a long and strange day. Within minutes, she was asleep. Chapter 3. Will awoke with a dry and pasty mouth, a throbbing head, and aches from head to toe. She painfully opened her eyes to find Church frowning down at her. That's when she realized she was nude and had apparently kicked the covers off in the night. His eyes roamed over her, deepening the frown. Damn, baby, no more Jim Beam for us. At least not when we're drinking together. I'm so sorry. What? What? She croaked. Then the memory of their sex the night before came rushing back to her hung-over brain. Oh my gosh, it really happened? What really happened? Sex? Well, yeah, we went at it like a couple of animals. I sure as hell did not mean to bruise you like that. Will jumped up and ran to the full-length mirror on her bedroom door. Her mouth dropped at the sight of her purple breast. Before she could say a word, Church let out a violent curse. What the holy fuck? Willow turned and saw the fury on his face as he left the bed and came to her. Gingerly, he reached out and touched his fingers to her back. Will winced in pain. He jerked his hands back and placed them on her bruised arms, turning her so she could see her back. Her skin was flayed, the hell with nail marks. It looked like someone had taken a serrated knife to her back. 6 rows of scratches marred her skin from her shoulders to the small of her back. Church looked like he was going to be sick. I'm so sorry, baby. I had no idea it was being so rough. I didn't feel it, she mused. I must have been even more loaded than I thought. That makes 2 of us. I can't believe I did that to you. Well, if it makes you feel any better, you have a good bite. You have a few good bite marks on your chest. No, it doesn't. He cupped her chin in his hand and gave her a sweet and simple kiss. Why don't you go get in the shower? I'll make us some coffee. Then I can put something on those scratches so they don't get infected or leave scars. Will gave him a weak smile as he disappeared through the door. On unsteady legs, she made her way to the bathroom. She avoided the mirror over the sink. Reaching for the taps, she turned the water on as hot as she could stand it and stood under the strong spray. The hot water felt like needles against her frigid skin. It took her a moment to realize that hot tears rolled down her face, mixing with the water from the shower. She grabbed her poofy, liberally adding the coconut-scented body wash she preferred, and began to roughly scrub her breast, thinking to herself that this must be how a woman felt after a rape, soiled, violated, used. When the soap ran off, she replaced it, scrubbing a second time, then washed her hair twice as well. When all she could smell was the scent of coconut and her body was an angry red over the purple bruises, she stepped out of the shower and wrapped herself in a towel. Church, who was leaning against the sink, handed her a cup of black coffee. Gratefully, she accepted the mug, swallowing a mouthful of the bitter brew. Thank you. He said nothing, just grabbed another towel and started drying her long strawberry blonde hair. His gentle tending of her almost sent her into another fit of tears. With the shower and the coffee wiping away the cobwebs from her mind, images of the night before began to play in her brain. The visions were oddly detached, like watching a movie where she played a role as well as being a spectator. Feeling better? He asked. Much, she lied, as he began to run a brush through her hair. Church kissed the top of her head. She knew he was feeling guilty, but didn't have a clue as to how to make him feel any better. She was saved from the inevitable discussion when his cell rang. When he left the room, she sighed with relief. The truth was, it wasn't Church who did this to her. She knew it sounded like a storyline from one of her books, but something else hurt her. Something else was in that bed with them last night, shaking her head like she could force away the crazy thoughts. Will went to her room and started to pull clothes on. She had finished dressing when Church returned. A friend of mine called. He's got a collection job and needs some backup. It's a quick 500. For once, Will didn't argue about his side business. Go ahead. You sure? I can tell him to find somebody else. His eyes watched hers for any sign that she was uncomfortable with him leaving. No, you go. I'm going to get another cup of coffee and make up the writing time I missed last night. All right. I'll text the kid and see if he's coming home tonight. Maybe I could pick up some steaks for the grill. Now that sounds like a winner. I'm sure if you tell Reagan about the steaks, he and Jazz will hightail it home. The way they eat, you may want to pick up a whole side of beef. They're growing boys, babe. Be glad there are only 2 of them. Amen to that. Feeling better from talking about normal things, Will put her arms around him and pressed her lips to his. She pulled back, looking into his eyes. Be careful, always. Will couldn't seem to settle down at the computer. She wandered her office, stared out the window, changed her playlist, caught up on her Facebook page. When her eyes landed on a picture of her Aunt Maggie, she picked it up. Took a minute to look at the familiar features. The picture had been taken at Reagan's 16th birthday party. She had just handed him the keys to his car a 20-year-old Chevy Camaro. There were tears in her eyes. She had been so happy to be able to give him the car. Will would have been hard pressed to say who was more emotional at the moment, Reagan or Maggie. Her eyes caught a picture that had been pushed behind the others. 3 faces smiled up at her. It was Church's Uncle Lucas with his arms around Maggie and her mother, Sarah. Looking at her mother was like looking in a mirror. She had only vague images. Sarah had died in a car accident when she was 5. It was Maggie who raised her, kissed her boo-boos, cried with her through her first breakup. Maggie was the one holding her hand as Reagan pushed his way into the world. And it was Maggie who got her through Lee's suicide. Will was lucky that her aunt had been willing to take her on. At the time, Maggie had been divorced just shy of a year. She lost her husband, lost her sister, and became a single mother in a very short space of time. How many nights in those first few years had Maggie held her while they both cried themselves to sleep? And how many nights had Maggie soothed her through the night terrors that plagued her even now? As if it was known she was being thought of, Will heard the front door open and Maggie call out, "Will, where you at? You have company." "I'm up here. Come on in. I'll be right down." Willa replaced the pictures, turned off the light, and went downstairs. Oh my gosh. Oh shit. Oh, you too. Will was surprised to see Lucas sitting in the kitchen with Maggie. She went straight to him and planted a kiss on the top of his graying head. "Uncle Lucas, I haven't seen much of you lately. How have you been?" "You know me, girlie, just stirring up trouble." He chuckled, scratching at the beard he kept neatly trimmed. "Don't you believe a word of it, Will. We've both turned into boring old folks." "Now, I don't believe a word of that. The pair of you could never be boring." She moved to kiss her aunt on her cherubic face. "You're right about that. You're right about that. Where's my nephew?" "He had to work." Knowing what kind of work Church did for a living, Maggie closed the subject. "We were just on our way out for an early supper. We thought we would stop by and see if you wanted to come with us." "Church is picking up some steaks to grill. Why don't you stay and have supper with us? I can text him and tell him you'll be here. I know he'll be happy to see the both of you." "Now that's the ticket. A nice relaxing night with a fire, steak, and beer. What do you say, Mags?" "Oh, woman." "Now that's the ticket. A nice relaxing night with a fire, steak, and beer. What do you say, Mags?" Will asked, smiling broadly in hopes Maggie would agree. "Perfect," she agreed, her cornfire blue eyes alight with happiness. I might get one more chapter in. Oh no, Naughty does not even and those two, and with Vinci in for a cherry on top. That Naughty doesn't even dignify that. Hookers are naughty. These 3 are something else. Chapter 4. Will was completely content. It was a perfect 65 degrees outside, a beautiful evening for a cookout. Reagan and Jazz played some 101, making the old basketball hoop in the backyard ping as they made their shots. Church was dumping a bag of charcoal into the grill while Lucas stood beside him explaining the correct way it should be lit. The adults drank beer while the kids swilled Red Bull. and everyone was salivating at the thought of the stakes coming up. The Bluetooth played alternating heavy metal for Will and Church and country for Maggie and Lucas. Will fetched the steaks and handed the plate over to Lucas, as he was the grill supervisor. Maggie appeared with a tray full of side dishes and began shouting orders. Boys, get on in the house and get cleaned up so we can eat. Will you want to fetch the paper plate? Will you want to fetch the paper plates, utensils, and napkins? Oh, and don't forget the salt. Everyone rushed to do her bidding. The boys took their time about it, not wanting to get volunteered into setting things up on the picnic table. Will didn't mind pitching in. To her, there was no greater pleasure in the world to be found than being surrounded by family. When the table was ready, Will went over to take the tray of finished steaks from Church. He gave her a lip-smacking kiss before forking them up for her. When the steaks were off the grill, the coals shot fire. It flew up from out of the belly of the grill, a blast 4 feet high. Looking into the inferno, Will thought for a split second she saw eyes staring out at her from the flames. In that instant, she felt recognition, a sense of familiarity, as if the eyes knew her as well. Church moved quickly, pushing Will back, breaking her contact with the vision of in the flames. She landed smack on her ass. Lucas grabbed Church, dragging him away before he was more than a bit singed. Holy shit! Maggie cursed in shock. The boys came running. Jas took the tray of meat from Will's shaking hands as Reagan worriedly checked his mother. Mom, are you okay? Are you burned? Looking down at herself, she realized Church pushing her out of harm's way had left her without so much as a scratch. I'm fine. What about Church? I couldn't see anything but a wall of fire. Looking around the boys, Will saw Maggie and Lucas crouched around Church. Help me up. Reagan took one arm and Jas the other. They hauled her to her feet, and all three went to where Church lay, swearing Church yelled, Get off of me, damn it. I'm fine. I survived a hell of a lot worse than a grill flaring up. He pushed his feet and went to Will. You okay? I'm fine, other than being scared to death something happened to you, Will answered. Did you throw too much lighter fluid on it? No, it was just one of those things, babe. If you say so, I say so. Now let's go eat before it gets cold. As they ate, Will could sense an uneasiness in Maggie. She could relate, as the incident had unsettled her as well. When they were finished, she and Maggie started the cleanup. Alone in the kitchen, Maggie threw her arms around Will, squeezing her tie. Will let out an involuntary yelp when Maggie squeezed the raw scratches on her back. What's wrong? You did get hurt out there, Maggie accused. Before Will could protest, Maggie twisted and pulled up the back of her shirt. Will sighed in frustration when Maggie hissed, What the hell happened to you? It's nothing really, Will insisted, not meeting Maggie's eyes. Bullshit. You look like an animal tried to tear you apart. Me and Church had a few too many last night and got a little carried away. That's all. Well, good Lord, Will, if this is what happened after a few too many, I don't want to see you black out drunk. Can I ask you something a little personal? You can ask me anything. I've always told you that. Something bugging you? Is it Church? No, not at all. No, not at all. Will shakes her head. Church would never deliberately hurt me. It's about my nightmares. She watched Maggie stiffen as if preparing for something awful. Did I ever have waking nightmares when I was younger? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I remember you would have a hard time shaking them off, almost like they kept running in your head even after you were awake. Why? Last night when this happened, I swear I saw a monster from my dreams. Its face was, I guess you could say it was superimposed over Church's face. It was freaky. I'm sure it was just a booze induced vision, just a trick of the light and shadows of in my imagination. I wrote about it in my book, Sleeping Demons Lie. I really wish you would stop writing those books. It's no wonder you still have nightmares. You should try to forget them and not poke at them. I really wish you. I use the books to get over my nightmares. It's like therapy for me. When I put them on paper, they're out of my head. Well, if you ask me, which you didn't, but I'll tell you anyway, it just digs up things better left alone. Opinion noted, Will replied. Now let's go back out and enjoy the rest of the evening. Will put her arm around her aunt's shoulders and led her back outside into the chatter of the music. Outside, they discovered Lanie, kicked back in a lawn chair, her feet propped up on a fresh case of cold Budweiser. Hiya, ladies. I heard there was a party and decided to invite myself. I invited you hours ago. Where have you been? Did you eat? We still have some food left over. I did eat. I was on a date, she informed them all with an evil grin. Well, sit. Since you're sitting here and not in jail, I guess the poor son of a bitch made it out alive, Church quipped. I don't even want to know. That's not very flattering. That's not a very flattering thing to say, but I will admit his chances for survival were up in the air by the end of the meal, she laughed. Who was it? Maggie demanded. Matthew Joseph's boy Thomas, 6 months divorced and looking for love in all the wrong places. Meaning he was hoping you would put out, Lucas chuckled. Exactly. Damn, Lanie, you didn't give that man a little something. Will teased her buddy. You all know I enjoy a good wrestle. But this guy was a joker. He was actually sending me dick pics during dessert. Now, I do enjoy a good cock shot. This, however, was not good. No one, I mean, no one wants to see uncircumcised cock over dessert. It nearly put me off my cheesecake. By this time, they were all in tears over Lanie's newest adventure in the dating pool. The boys had gone inside to play video games, and the adults sucking down beer and trying to outdo each other with bawdy dating stories. It was a good night, and Will enjoyed the easy camaraderie and laughter. All too soon, Church whispered in her ear, I'm going to have to drive these two home. I know. Lucas is so drunk I can only understand half of what he's saying. Maggie looks like she's going to pass out in her chair. I'll get the boys to follow me in my car and bring me back. Good idea. I'll convince Lane to sleep in the spare room. With the help of the boys, Church got the drunks into the car and on their way. Will and Lanie kicked out. Damn, I just did that. Oh. With the help of the boys, Church got the drunks into the car and on their way. Will and Lanie kicked back and decided they would finish off their case of beer Lanie brought. While they sat singing along to the radio, an uneasy feeling began to crawl across Will's skin. Her eyes were drawn to the carriage house. She thought she saw a light. As she continued to watch it, it grew steadier and brighter. The carriage house had been locked up tight since the day the police finished their investigation of Lee's suicide. It should be impossible for a light to be on inside. Will? Will? Will slowly turned her eyes to Lanie. She pointed towards the carriage house. In almost a whisper, she asked, Do you see that? See what? The light. Do you see a light in there? Lanie looked, her mouth formed an O. Fuck me. It's probably kids. They all think the place is haunted. I'll bet they broke a window and got in so they could ghost hunt. No, it's not kids, Will said, standing up. Church put plexiglass over all the windows. They wouldn't be able to break the plexiglass. Call the cops. It could be junkies looking for a place to smoke it up. I don't think so. Everyone around here knows about the creeper. They wouldn't smoke it up in a place he could see them and call the cops. I'm going to go check it out. That's really a bad idea, Lanie argued as Will started walking toward the building. Oh, shit. Wait for me. Oh, what a cliffhanger. Oh, man. I can ask for a better one. All right, ladies. Free on KU. Go get it. Well, go get it, Karen. No, you're not getting any more. I'm tired. I'm hurting. I'm sleepy. I want to go to bed. And I got to get up and go to work in the morning. In the office. In the fucking office. I didn't put my 16 hours plus in. Damn it. All right, ladies. Thank you, Miss Beth, for letting me read this. I appreciate it. And you're welcome, Jody. We're going to get together sometime soon. Well, thank you, Miss Matthew, Miss Matthew McConaughey. Good night, lovelies. All right, tomorrow night we got Theta James in here, so come back tomorrow night for a MC book, and we'll see if we can have some fun there too, like we had tonight. All right, ladies, have a great day. Be careful of the weather wherever you go. I'll see you tomorrow night. Love you all. Happy reading.